Hey folks, welcome again to Mr. C's vlog. Sorry I haven't been around. I've been eyebrow deep in websites and interviews trying to find someone who will back me up on my ludicrous ideas and try to focus my inquiry on the shoulders of people who know more than I do. I realized when I was doing this that a lot of scholars toss around this word media text, and I think that before we go any further, it's crucial that we define this term. So for our purposes, a media text is going to be any visual medium that can be analyzed for meaning and purpose. It will include things like websites, blogs, video games, movies, television, and advertisements, both print and film advertisements. But before we get too far, I want to talk about the criticism of the current school system. I personally grew up in a school system where I didn't fit. There was no room for my fandangled foot tapping and comic book reading, whistling self. And Sir Ken Robinson says in a conference he gave in 2006 that schools are killing students' creativity. He suggests that our current method of education leaves very little wiggle room and that this leads to a stifling of students' creative side. He criticizes the schools for having math and literacy every day while leaving little time for dance and art. He challenges our understanding of the brain and encourages educators to use this creative side. While I don't believe the answer is to teach a separate class for dance on a daily basis, I believe Sir Robinson is onto something. I also believe that there is ample room for this creative outlet in media text, and thus in English. I would suggest that a comprehensive media program incorporates not only the deconstruction of media texts and analyzes it for its parts, but also a construction of these texts. Using the knowledge gained from taking them apart, students can recreate them and display those skills. Essentially, a reverse engineering of media texts. And there's some good news. It would appear that there are some scholars out there who agree with me. Barry Duncan, in his article, A Media Literacy Menu, Ingredients for Successful Media Studies, suggests that media text and media production need to be an integral part of any media course. He suggests that we analyze media texts and allow students to create them to further our understanding of them, which is perfect. Mr. Duncan says that we can use media text to help students investigate everything from commercial monopolies to the power of public relations. But to add to Mr. Duncan's support of my idea, Chris Warsnop, in his article Integrating Media Lessons into the Classroom, gives concrete examples of how and where teachers can incorporate media text into their lessons. He suggests that in science classroom, for example, the teacher may have students locate ecological or conservation news and then analyze why it's so difficult to find these news in typical newspapers. Sasha Barab, another scholar from Edutopia, takes this science lesson even further. In his interview entitled Sasha Barab on New Media Engagement, he talks about a computer program called Atlantis, where students are not simply reading about erosion and conservation, but they're actually experiencing it. And they're in this world, they're tasked in a world and in an environment. They have to discover why the world around them is eroding. And they have characters and they explore this world and they discover the meaning behind it all, which is very interesting. And Mimi Ito, in her online interview on Edutopia as well, it's called On Learning New Media, informs educators to look at all the ways that students use new media and find the learning experiences that are innately coded into them. The point is that educators agree it is possible and it is important to incorporate media text into our classroom. Now, we know now that it's possible. These educators have told us that these things can happen, they can exist. Our next step is going to be looking at how and why we should incorporate these media texts. See you tomorrow.